all around the world. We're seeing people trying to take on specific site battles and being able to link those. The question always has been, is you can win after site battle after site battle after site battle, but they have to be linked to something bigger. And that's where actually you do need a global agreement. People who think we don't need a global agreement, you do, because no matter what we do on a local level, no matter how many victories we have on a local level, no matter how much power local authorities have, until we get a global agreement which says rich countries have got to make emissions cuts of X percent, 60, 70%, they've got to provide the finance for developing countries, they've got to provide the technology to be able to allow developing countries to be able to grow cleanly and to be able to deal with the impacts of climate change. What we're going to see is, yes, we could have a whole new green environment in the UK. We could transform Britain into a green economy. But fundamentally, will we have done anything in terms of our responsibility, our historic responsibility for causing climate change? Actually, no. So there needs to be a link between the local, the national and the global. So we need to use the local cases, the local campaigns, the local fights to be able to resonate national demands. We need to be using the national demands to be able to link globally with the movements in the north and south. And that's the real challenge that we're doing. And one of the reasons why we've done this meeting this week is, at the end of this week, the Stop Climate Chaos, which is the umbrella group of pretty much every development NGO, everybody that there is in the UK, and are doing a national lobby, of Parliament, of MPs, with demands in terms of on local climate, on national climate demands, around the green jobs and green economy, and around the international climate. And we say, that's great, but there needs to be a link, there needs to be more politics to it, there needs to be a connection to it, understanding of why we're trying to do this and the trajectory that we're trying to do. And that's why I think it's really, really important we do that, and we don't give up on the negotiations. And just on the friend there who talked about, the fairness arguments here in terms of the UK, of course, look, we're political people. We have a political fight on our hands. We recognise that there's different constituencies who will resonate with different arguments, and you provide all of those arguments. There are some, like us, who are going to be motivated by the arguments about justice and equity. There are other people who are going to be motivated by the idea of a better life, a more sustainable life. Some people are going to be motivated by arguments about health. Don't eat so much meat. If meat consumption is driving soy plantations, to driving, the deforestation, I don't care whether people are saying, I'm doing it because I want to protect the rainforest, or I'm doing it because I think meat is bad for me. Well, whatever way you're doing it, I want you to take action. I want to make those ethical consumers into political consumers. Of course I do. But I'm willing for them to start as ethical consumers. I'm willing for people to be able to be bought with the argument that actually they can lead a better life in a sort of green economy, even though we know that in itself isn't the end solution. So whatever windows people want to come in at, whatever solutions, in the movement we've got to be broad, diverse, pluralistic enough. This is not a party, it's not one vision, one goal. What came out of Cochabamba, what came out of the social movements is saying, we know what we're against, you know what we're for? We're for many different things, because those many different things are depending on where you are. The solutions in Latin America are different to the solutions in Africa, are different to the solutions in Asia, and they'll be different to the solutions in Europe. We create real grassroots solutions on the real experiences of people, and not have one model that fits all. Of course, that's not what we're saying. I'll shut up. Although, can I just say in terms of on the US, on the KP and the targets, and again, the friend there who talked about the KP, I want to just echo what Meena said. This battle around Kyoto, is really interesting, because 2 years ago, most of the whole movement said, you want to fight around Kyoto? Who cares about Kyoto? Who cares about it? It was so weak, it was so ineffectual, and we had to fight. Because actually it's the last line of defence. If we got rid of that, the target is the last line of defence. It is because it's the only legally binding instrument that we have at the moment. Of course we want more. Of course we want more. We want strong. We want to get rid of the clean development mechanism out there. We want to make stronger targets. We know that at the moment. But if the fight is that they want a pledge and review system, they don't want the legally binding argument, they don't want Kyoto at all, which is why the biggest fight in Cancun is actually going to be about the climate architecture. Yeah. All those things that we've talked about here, some of the things, the weird thing is, these aren't left ideas, they aren't ideas of radicals. All of these things are in a convention, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. They were signed by every single country, including the United States. Now, I'm sure there's many governments in the world who want to shoot their civil servants who went to Rio 20 years ago and signed up to this. But they signed up to things like historical responsibility. They signed up to the idea that rich countries, polluters, had to pay the price. They had to give the finance, the technology. They want to rip up that document. They want to go back to it now. That's why they want to take Kyoto out of it. Because once you take Kyoto out, then you're saying that rich countries and poor countries are on the same level. Then you're saying what the US says, which says, forget all what happened in history. Let's start now. And we'll start now and we'll just say, who's got emissions? Okay, China, us, Brazil, India, all of those. We'll make an agreement about what sort of emissions cuts that we're going to make. Even though their lifestyle, their societies are able to adapt to climate change because they've benefited from it. While developing countries like India, or even China, which has got 300 million people below the poverty line at the moment, or India with millions and millions of people below the poverty line, they haven't got the economic infrastructure. They haven't got the capacity to be able to deal with climate change the way that Europe and the US will do, which is why it's very, very important. And the biggest demand of all the developing countries, irrespective, is there has to be Kyoto targets for rich countries. It is. It's the biggest demand, I'm telling you. It is.
It's not legally binding.
Pardon?
It's not legally binding.
It is legally binding. It's the only legally binding instrument in the whole of the climate negotiation.
Okay.